everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Alice Rouse, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me, along with these other books, where you can find everything, you guys, my books, my merchandise, Patreon, the cocktail of the day, going to be down in that description. So you know what I always say, go down. Same thing I told the rockers. So do it, trust me. It's fun down there. All right. And as always, thank you so much to my awesome community here. You guys rock. I cannot even tell you how much you all mean to me and how appreciative I am of all the amazing love and support and friendships that you have brought into my life. It truly means the world. And welcome to the new members. And don't forget, with these new ebooks, those how to be a groupie 101, how to flirt with a rock star, and a groupie's guide to etiquette on the road, I've got a special plan for those. I'm going to print out a very limited number of copies and give them to my members only here. So hit the membership or go to my Patreon, because I have other stuff for the Patreons too. A lot of stuff to say thank you guys, because it truly, truly means everything to me. The love that you guys have shown me and the support and everything you do here. So I want to say thank you back. And today, you guys, I'm going to say thank you back because I'm going to do something I haven't done before. And I've talked about these people a lot. And I might have a couple pictures, but just a couple because, don't want to give everybody away. I'm going to talk about the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. That's right. I'm going to tell you about Kristen and about Danny and about Davidy, because we were the core of the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. And I'll even tell you how you got that name. If kind of already know, if you watched my very first Nikki 6 video, you kind of know how we got the name. But for those of you just joining, I'll tell you again. And today's cocktail is going to be a Bloody Mary michelada. Now, I took one of my favorite Belgian, the Francis scanner, put some spices in it, some tomato, kind of like a Bloody Mary in a beer. So everybody, grab your micheladas, kick up your feet, and let's have a cocktail and rocktail, shall we? Sophia says, cheers, big ears. Definitely love a Bloody Mary michelada. My favorite one is by Shades, but they do very limited series on those, so I couldn't get a hold of that one. So I made my own. All right. So, okay, we are going to talk about the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. Now, most of you know Kristen, so we'll start with her because Kristen, you've seen her pictures. I just put one up on one of my newest videos, one of my blackouts. So here's Kristen. And everybody knows this picture of she and I when we were about 16, I believe was when this picture was taken. We used to do photo shoots with a guy, Rip Black. I've mentioned it before. And whenever he needed rock chicks for photo essays, for photography magazines and stuff, he would call us. So this is Kristen. This is her now. Well, not now, but this is pretty much what she still looks like. I mean, she's still young, looks young, still beautiful, still got that big smile and the Scorpio attitude, because Kristen is a Scorpio. And she and I are the same age. Now, she and I met when Danny was in college here at Westminster and had a roommate, Sharon. And they had parties all the time. And I was still in high school, because I'm a couple years younger than Danny. So I was like a junior probably when she was Sharon's roommate. But anyway, so they were having parties at their house, and the high school chicks that I was going with were all kind of bitches and stuff like that. So Kristen happened to come to the party with some local musician guys that we knew who were from the West Valley. And in Salt Lake City, you have the east side and the west side. The west side doesn't really come over to the east side very much, and vice versa. It's just, we have everything we need, and it's very, very two different worlds. But Kristen was always just rock and roll, and she lived over here on the east side and went to East High School. I went to Brighton, so we went to two different high schools. But anyway, Kristen was at the party at Danny and Sharon's apartment, and I was just kind of pissed off because the girls that I was with, Jerry and Christina and Michelle, these girls that I hung out with from my high school, were just being catty, as some girls get in high school. So I just wanted to get away from him and decided to wander into the kitchen, grab another beer, and there was this girl. And she had blonde, brown, kind of streaked hair in the 80s. And it was this nice, big, curly hair. And she has this beautiful, like, hourglass kind of, that Kim Kardashian body before the Kardashians' body were all the rage and all the style. And everybody was getting the butt implants and stuff. No, Kristen has that body naturally. No boob job like the Kardashians. But anyway, so I walk in, and like I said, I was probably about 16 at the time, and I come walking in the kitchen, and she just is hitting that beer bong like no tomorrow. And there she just looks down, looks straight at me. She's all, aren't you the girl that those girls are talking about, the band slut or something like that? And I was like, yeah, probably. She's like, I want to hang out with bands. I'm like, do you now? And we just started talking, and it was just like an instant kismet. Like, this was, and she was just so saucy, and so the way she was doing the beer bong, and the way she was dressed, and the way she was just sauntering over and flirting with the guys, she was just a natural. Like, and the first time we went backstage, I called her the night before. I'm like, hey, and I can never remember if it was like Iron Maiden or Motley Crue. I can't remember. I'm going to have her on one day and she can remember. But we were going to meet down at the show the next day because the band was not in town. So we were like, okay, we'll go to the parking lot and hit up the buses like you did in the 80s. Because if the band was not in town the day before, we would just go stand by the buses in the parking lot. Bus door would open up and be like, hey, ladies. And we'd be like, okay. So I'm going to meet her down at the gig. And she got there before me. I didn't know, but I get down to the gig to the back parking lot of the Salt Palace. And I'm just waiting around for Kristen because this is before cell phones and stuff. So I'm just waiting around. And all of a sudden, there are about 10 minutes, I look up and I see a tour bus door open. And of course, my instincts turn to the tour bus door. I get my little pose on, like you do. And I'm like, ready to be like, hey boy. But no, it was no boy. It was Kristen. She was already on that bus. Her first time backstage. She was already on that bus. And she had this onesie, spandex outfit with holes cut in it and it was black and then a white lace, 80s style, and a black leather jacket. And she just waves. She just kicks out one leg. She's got the bus door by this hand. She kicks out a leg and she's like, hey girl. She's like, come on. And I just knew at that moment in time, Kristen, she was going to be part of it. Now, she and I were the reason the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee was made up. Because as you guys know who watched the first Nikki Sixx video, when we went up to Motley Crue, it was like 8, 9 in the morning because we were like, they were not in town the night before. It's Motley Crue. We were going to be the first to get there and get our passes and get our men. Because that's how we were. We were not messing around. So when we knocked on one of the bus doors, because we just decided to go up and knock on the bus door because the little security guy wasn't there yet. So we go knocking on the bus door, and this angry roadie opens up the door and is like, what? And we look up, he's like, who is it? Just angry because we woke him up. And we're like, and I just looked at him. I said, it's the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. And yeah, from then on, we were known as the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. But when we were at Def Leppard, that was Kristen and I's band, as to where Danny and I's band was Metallica. But when we were with Def Leppard, we were known as Captain Love and Lieutenant Lust. So, but yeah, Kristen was a natural from the start. Like I said, she's a Scorpio. She's blatantly just comfortable in her sexuality and her body and everything. And it was just awesome because I loved that about her. And she never judged anybody. So, and that's Kristen. So here she is again. Now we're going to talk about Danny. Now, Danny and I grew up in the same small town, and our families moved to Salt Lake City close to the same time. But anyway, so Danny, Daryl Hannah, with the long blonde and long, thick blonde hair. And it is still long and thick and beautiful. Her hair has not changed. And she's got the blue eyes, but she was more, like Kristen was kind of the more sleek, hippie chick, or sleek Scorpio type of chick, not dominating, but she knew she was coming for you. When she got her stinger out, watch out, boys. But now Danny, she was more the kind of hippie. She hitchhiked to the Grateful Dead, and we hitchhiked to Denver a couple times, as we all know. But, so that was Danny. One of the times she hitchhiked to the Grateful Dead, She was by herself. So every single one of us so far, bold. There was nothing we were afraid of. And these rock stars, none of us treated them like gods. They were just our boys. So we looked at them. But so yeah, Danny, she blonde hair, blue eyes. She's about 5'9", 5'10"-ish. 5'9". But always that tall, gorgeous, kind of hippie chick. But boy, when she got this one look in her eye, watch out. When she would be like, oh, you knew. Oh, God. Feel sorry for whatever guy that she man-eats tonight. But yeah, it's because every one of us had sort of a different kind of personality. Mine, I was just sort of kind of the Virgo, the unassuming. I walk in, I'm kind of quiet. But when you hear my laugh, this one particular laugh, there's two things you're going to do. Stay home and lock the doors, or grab bail money and some tube socks, because you're going to need both. Something like that. But so yeah, Danny just still gorgeous, still blonde hair, blue eyed. Like I said, her hair is still just amazing. She was the hippie one, and she and I were the two that we went through most of the bands together, and she stayed in the rock scene almost as long as pretty much. I mean, she kind of mellowed out a lot more after 2002 and stuff like that, but she lived in LA, she lived in Florida, stuff like that, kept her little rock and roll fantasy going. So she's definitely she and I had the longest groupie lives. And we still both have friends that we hang out with. But so yeah, that's her. She's fun, she's free-spirited, she's wild, but she's kind of shy and she's kind of secretive. She likes to keep her anonymity and doesn't really tell anybody much about her life. But that old Danny, she's still in there. She's still free. She's still an amazing human being. She's been through a lot in her life, and a lot of good things, a lot of crazy things, like we all have been. But she's still that blonde hair, blue-eyed, hippie, rock and roll. She loves her music. Awesome chick. And Davidy was a couple years younger than me, and she kind of came along about a year or so once because Salt Lake City was a very competitive groupie scene. The rockers, it was the groupie capital of the world, because Salt Lake City was known to have some very beautiful women, and as Lars Ulrich put it, a bunch of wild, rebellious preachers' daughters, pretty much. So yeah, it was crazy wild. And Davidy came along with that, and we just kind of saw her a couple times on the scene. She was with my friend Oris quite a bit. A couple other rockers. Like I said, had a little with Dave Mustaine the morning after I was with them the first time, and in between, yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of how she and I first met, but we kept seeing her, and then we just kept hanging out with bands, and we finally exchanged numbers. And like I said, she was 2 years younger than me. She was one of the few girls after the 18 and over rule to go backstage that they would still let in, even though she still was not 18 when we all turned 18. So, but God, I'm trying to think who would play her in a movie, because she has this big smile, like these wonderful, like Angelina Jolie lips and a big smile. And boy, could she swear like a sailor. And she was just kind of more the preppy one of us all, but the rocker kind of preppy. Like she, and like I always say, groupies, we don't look the part of a groupie. We're dressed fashionably and in our own style. But Davidy was definitely the one who was always Nordstrom and Haroons and whatever, the higher end stores. And we all were, but she definitely kind of went more for that preppy, rich bitch look, that kind of thing. And like I said, she had a mouth of a sailor, but those lips, thank God she had that mouth. Yep. And she just had and still does have a great sense of humor. I love her laugh. Like, she just has the most bold laugh. And she had blonde hair for a while, but she's brown. And she's mostly red. She's been red for a lot of years. Like I said, here's a little picture of Davidy right here. Just kind of, I don't want to, impede on anybody's privacy, but I might have Davidy on the show. I would like to have all of us Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee girls on the show so you can kind of see, because we were each our own different personality. And that was the cool thing. We all had the commonality of we knew rock and roll was our tribe. And that's what bonded us. We never wanted the same guys, so cool, We each picked the one out of the band that we wanted, and it was always different, so there's no competition among us. And we're all really close friends for a lot of years. And we're still good friends to this day, especially Danny and I. Just, the bond's never going to break. But yeah, and that was Davidy. Like I said, she was the younger one, but she was kind of the more preppy, more uptown kind of girl. But she also started dancing with me at the American Bush, like, as soon as she was able to, because you only had to be 18 because it was non-alcoholic. She was like, heck yeah, I'm in. And I think she was a little older than 18, but yeah, she just was really, really awesome, and she was really independent and always did her own thing. And that was also a cool thing about us in the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee, because that's how the guys got to know us. Now, Danny and I did get to be known as the Usual Sisters when we were first in Seattle. That's where my TikTok and my Instagram name comes from, because Danny and I were known as the Usual Sisters. Don't know why, it just sort of came up. We're going to go to Salt Lake City. We're going to see the committee, the Usual Sisters, the Rock Sisters, So it just so we were somewhere between the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee and the Usual Sisters. And then Kristen and I were Captain Love and Lieutenant Lust. And like I said, we were all kind of our own entity. Like, we could go hang out with a whole band together, but I'll take off for a while with this band, and Davidy would take off, and then there's Danny hitchhiking to go hang with the Dead, or, California living with her musician boyfriend, stuff like that. So we were always this core group, but we were comfortable going off on our own or in pairs, on tour with different bands and stuff. And that was one thing, like, no matter where we were in the world, whether we were here at home in Salt Lake City or New York or wherever, we were always bonded, and we were always in touch, and we were always together, and everybody knew us as a pack. And that was really the coolest part about hanging out backstage, is finding other women, because any woman who's been on the road as long as I have and as much as I have, we all know women are, cool women especially, are few and far between on the road. So, and especially when you find other women that you could bond with like that and spend so many years, and even outside of rock and roll, and just, have that kind of friendship, that kind of understanding, and be part of a tribe together. It was amazing, because we all just, like I said, had this amazing chemistry and kismet together, and we all just sort of fit in, and it was always like a sisterhood with us. And one of the things that sisterhood was about, we all knew we were going to be on the guest list, but we'd always have me +3, Danny +3, Kristen +3, Davidy +3, just to ensure that we were all on the guest list. We we always made sure we never went without when it came to rock and roll and being backstage when we were all together. And, we went through a lot of life experiences that way. And I love it, because like I said, you had Kristen, the cool, suave Scorpio, who she was letting you know she was coming for you. You had Danny, the beautiful Daryl Hannah looking, hippie chick. Davidy, the preppy chick, and me, the unassuming Virgo kind of chick, who is also very direct and could probably slay you with a few words, because that's how Virgos are. So that's the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee, and we were all young teenagers when we first met. So we've all known each other for like 35 years, 36 years, a long time. And, people give me trauma or trouble or whatever. They give me all kinds of hell about saying that we were the best, we were the queens of the scenes. The Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee became the top groupies in Salt Lake City. Because we were just cool. We didn't talk about other bands. We didn't talk about the music. We just let the conversation happen. We all had great rapport with each other, and we never talked shit about anybody. Unless they were talking shit about us, then we were like, fuck them. You know? So that was the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. And one day I hope to have us all here together. Like I said, I know Kristen's going to come on. I'm going to talk to Davidy. We've already had Danny on. You guys, so if you want to hear Danny, go to the Metallica car wreck one with the ambulance. I'll put a link to it down in the description. But yeah, that was us, the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. Probably the last great groupie scene in the history of rock groupies, because there has been nothing repeated. You know, everybody thinks the 70s were the golden era of groupies. No, it wasn't. We were the diamond platinum era of groupies in the 80s. And for us to find each other and to enjoy all this was really amazing, and friendships that I totally cherish. And it appealed to the guys too, because we were always with our guys. We always made friendships, new friendships with different band guys when we were together, because we'd be like, oh yeah, let's all go out to dinner. Let's do this, you know, whatever. So we kind of made more of a community as a groupie troop, so to speak. You know, us four girls, we made a community out of being on the road. Kind of like we all do here. So, there you guys go. There's a little bit more into the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. Just really awesome women. Really strong, bold, free-spirited, loving, caring women with great senses of humor and who can give good. Because Lord knows, when Mick Jagger says you give the best he's ever had, you know you're doing something right. So, and with that, I'm going to say, you guys don't forget to hit those bells. That's the subscription. And, oh, my bells. The like, the subscribe. Hit that down there, because for 45% of you that are just haunting me, subscribe. Because, like I said, for my members, for my subscribers here, I've got some cool stuff going on. And same with my Patreon, but different stuff over there. So, come and join the community, you guys. We have a great time over here. Be part of my new Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee. All right. Thank you guys again for all the love and support. And we'll see you next time on Cocktails Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.